Hello. It is already February. In fact, it's actually February 4th today as I'm recording this. A little bit late. Anyways, hello, I'm Avery. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about everything that I read in January and what I would like to read for February. Some of these books were not planned books for January. The books I want to read for February are books that I originally intended to read in January. This term has been so insanely busy. I need to learn how to manage my time a little better to keep up with all that is going on. Anyways, starting with what I read in January. First one I read was Mockingjay. I started this one at the end of December and then finished it at the beginning of January. I think it was really sad. There will be spoilers in this video because how do you talk about a book without spoiling? Maybe I'll learn eventually. I don't know. But I think in the beginning they had just started their revolution. I struggle with timelines in a series because sometimes I can't remember what happened in which book. She's in District 13 in the beginning of the book. So like at the end of Catching Fire was like the beginning of the revolution. So I did enjoy this book overall. I don't love the epilogue in the end. I don't love the idea that Katniss and Peeta end up eventually having children. And then it's a very blunt transition between they're trying to vote on whether or not they want to have the Hunger Games except with capital children only, to then and before that Katniss is terrified of ever bringing children into this world because she would never want her own children to have to fight in the games. So not only does she decide that she wants other people's children to fight in the games, but then as a sort of revenge, but then she goes on to having her own children eventually. So I don't love that. I feel like the epilogue is very out of character for her, and I understand that she has a lot of grief, lost her sister, lost her whole life, lost her best friends, because her and Gale just, I don't know, they very much go separate ways. There's a lot of butting heads as the story progresses because, I don't know, they just want revenge so badly but they forget that they're people too. And I don't think they're going about it in the right way because just like the district children had no say in anything that was happening, neither do the capital children. You don't get to choose where you're born. You don't get to decide that. I don't think that they should do another games though, because that was the whole problem with the games, was the capital wanted revenge on the districts, and it went on for 75 years. So then how long is it going to go on? They're not going to stop at 1 year with the capital. That's not going to be enough revenge. She could write a whole other series on this, but I just think that the good guys turn bad in their quest for revenge. And the epilogue is just super out of character. I don't know. Anyways, next I kind of read both of these at the same time. I'll start with this one. This is the one I did for school. The Comedy of Errors by Shakespeare. I'm going to be so honest. I understood very little of this book. Even when I thought I was understanding, then the teacher was talking and I missed some big points. Reading the language, that old English language, is very complicated And there's like a lot of glosses is what she called them. So it kind of explains, but I feel like that was constantly taking me out of the story because I had to read all the explanations. But it's about two different sets of twins. One comes from a wealthy family, one comes from a poor family. So it talks about like the difference of class a lot. I wish I understood it better. That being said, I dropped the class, so there is not going to be any more Shakespeare in my near or probably distant future. The next one I read was Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five. It's about a man who fought in World War II, and this book kind of floats between a lot of different timelines, so there will be a lot of flashbacks and a lot of moving forward, and he has communications with this other planet, Transformer, or I can't remember what the planet was called. I found it somewhat confusing because I don't know if this man is just struggling with PTSD and maybe some dementia or something, or if he actually has contact with another planet. And you never really get an answer to that, at least not one that I noticed. I could have just completely missed that. I don't know. And the difficult thing about books is the fact that whether or not it is real has nothing to do with what is real in our real world. So it could very much be real in this book, and I will never know. But it was good. It was a fairly fast read, which is nice. It's only 200 something pages. How many pages is it? 275 pages. The next book I read was The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I really liked this book. It took a long time to get into the games, and the games was very short, and I was probably about halfway through when the games were over. So if the big thing that you think is going to happen happens in the middle of the book, shit's about to go down. I don't know. A lot of unexpected things will happen. And the hard part about this is the fact that it's a prequel. So as much as I'm like reading it and meeting these characters in a sense for the first time, some of these characters, like Snow for example, Snow isn't a good guy. That he goes bad. And it very much seems like he is on the fence between what's right and what's wrong. And it's like he could know what's wrong, but he wanted money and power so bad. He came from a poor family, and he wanted nothing more than money and power. And he would have done anything to get there, which is really sad because he seems like he cares so much about his grandma and his cousin Tigress, which kind of shocking because maybe I'm confusing these characters. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure we met Tigress in Mockingjay, and she helped the rebels. She hid them like in the basement of her shop. So meeting Tigress in here, finding out she's Snow's cousin, was shocking, and they seem to have such a good bond. So I would love to know what happened there. I would love to have like another book, everything in between. I don't know. I just found it really interesting I really like with these prequels, seeing different characters that we've met or heard about or had hints to in the original trilogy, and then getting like more information on these characters, on their backgrounds, on who they knew and who was in their life. I just think that is really, really, really cool. What else do I want to say about this? Love Lucy Gray and The Covey. right now I am reading Sunrise on the Reaping. So seeing all these like connections of the Covey to Katniss and her family and to Haymitch, and just seeing all of these parallels come together is really cool. I really love the way she did that. The ending was super confusing because I wasn't sure if Lucy Gray died or not. And I'm coming to the conclusion that she didn't die in the end of this book, but she did sometime after. I don't know. I have no idea. I would love to think that she ran off and was able to start a new life elsewhere. I don't know. But she's not in any of the other books. And there is like whispers of her in Sunrise on the Reaping. But nobody really seems to know much, and it seems to be a very taboo subject that nobody can talk about, obviously, given Snow's experience. I think even with the Are You Coming to the Tree, that song, I remember hearing it in The Hunger Games, the original trilogy, and the fact that Katniss's dad sung it to her, and the fact that her mom did not like that and did not want her knowing or singing that song. So then hearing Lucy Gray sing it was really cool, because it kind of shows like why it's forbidden. Snow's like deep connection to Lucy Gray, and then his betrayal towards her, and then he still got everything he wanted. Which is just, it's a shame. It is, because I wonder what it would have been like had Snow not gone that route. And I know that there probably would have been, like, the games were already pre-existing or whatever. The games already existed. So they probably would have continued on anyways, whether it was Snow or somebody else that was running the show. But I still wonder what it could have been like had Snow stuck with his original instincts about how wrong this is. So then the fact that he also betrays Sejanus, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, the fact that he also betrays him is so messed up. Because he knew and he agreed to, he just decided that money and power is more important, which it doesn't make sense to me either why, even when Snow was in a position of power, why he let the games continue. That doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, this one, actually I've been reading it on my Kindle. I think I just finished chapter 8, I think. Let's see, what would that look like in here? According to my Kindle, I'm like 30% through, I think. Okay, so yeah, I'm about that far into it. The games have not started yet. They're just in the training session right now. The amount of tributes is shocking. And the fact that Haymitch was friends with Katniss's dad is wild. And it's also, I'm also noticing that Haymitch, as like when Haymitch is young, is so similar to Katniss, just in their like refusing to show any sort of emotion for the benefit of the games and their propaganda. I'm really enjoying it so far. We just met Beetee, who is in Mockingjay, and he is mentoring his own son, which is a punishment from the Capitol, which I think is so messed up. Yeah, it's interesting as like I read all the different books. Like this is, I think this is the last one, unless she's writing more. But seeing how the characters connect to each other, and then seeing the characters in different phases of their life is really cool. The timelines are slightly confusing. I don't even know what the best order. Like, I'm lucky I read the trilogy first before these even existed. Well, I didn't finish it, but still. And you have to read the trilogy first to understand the prequels better. But the prequels also help you understand the trilogy better. So I feel like it would be interesting to read them the opposite way. However, it's too late because I already know kind of what happens in the trilogy. The other books that I would like to read were also in my video where I was talking about the books I would like to read in January. But there is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I really want to read this one. It's fairly short, so maybe I'll read that one next. Unless I get distracted by another book. 1984 by George Orwell. And then The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I'm also wanting to read Emily Henry's newest book. I don't have a copy of it yet, but what was it called? I can't remember what it's called. Great Big Beautiful Life. I really want to read that one. I've read all her other books. I haven't read that one yet, though. And I've been really wanting to, and I think a romance novel in February would be nice to read. But yes, that is everything I've read in January. Yes, everything I read in January and everything I would like to read in February. Anyways, thank you for watching. See you next time.